Good afternoon, Remax Associate Agents. Rob Oakey here with this week's Broker Minute. Hey, I want to share a question that I've been getting recently, and that is, what is the proper way to not only receive an addendum with some terms and then how to counter it, what carries through from one addendum to the next, and what do we need to include, what don't we need to include? So I quickly just pulled up an example, and just to keep it simple, I wrote it on one particular form, a Word document that we can now take the scenario that starts with one addendum and then transfers to a counteroffer and ultimately a final counteroffer. So let's look at this real quick on my screen, and I'm going to paint the situation for you. So here we go. We receive an addendum, and in that term of the addendum, we receive seller's closing costs they're asking for $10,000 with a purchase price of 700 and a settlement date of March 15th, 2026. And of course, the buyers sign it and they're sending it over to the seller for additional, to counter, reject, or accept. So the seller counters it in this situation. Here we go. And they counter it with addendum 2. And these are the new terms that they receive. They're going to counter it with $7,500 that they're asking to be paid, and the seller will pay in closing costs, and March 1st with the settlement deadline. So the purchase price of $700,000 is not addressed. And because that is not addressed, then that means that that term would be accepted by the party if this addendum got accepted. So they send it back to the buyer, and the buyer counters it again. And here we go, they counter it. Now they're going to counter it with addendum 3. And the only thing that they're going to counter back with is a different settlement deadline as of the 10th, of which the seller's okay with and ultimately accepts. So when we break this down in this first addendum where they asked for 3 things, 2 things get countered, the closing costs and the date. So the purchase price was agreed upon. And this last one gets countered where the $7,500 is agreed upon and only the dates, the closing date is left. So the ending information that was agreed upon is we have a $700,000 purchase price. We have $7,500 being paid in closing costs and a settlement deadline of March 10th. And that's ultimately what the final terms of the agreement are that buyer and seller agree to. Hopefully that answers some good questions for you, and it makes a lot of sense, because the one piece of language that is addressed into every addenda is this: it says, to the extent in terms of this addendum that modify or conflict with any provision of the REPC, including all prior addenda and counteroffers, these terms shall control. All other items remain the same. So the items that are not addressed, those are the same, and it's only the things that are addressed in the addenda that get changed. Hopefully that answers some questions, but if you have any question about it, please reach out to me, and happy to help any way I can. All right, talk to you later. Bye.